evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Coach's Corner, live here on Heart of Ohio Sports. We are here at Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery. To my right, our co-host, Steve Gilbert, joining us once again this week. How we doing, Coach?
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us once again this week. To my left, Coach Ed Phillips of the Seneca East Football Tigers. How we doing, Coach?
Fantastic. All
right.
I don't know what's brighter, the sun or the shine off his rings.
I know, that is
Look at that.
gleaming. Once again, Coach's Corner brought to you by our friends at Xcaret Mexican Restaurant, Your Legacy Federal Credit Union, as well as our friends here at Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery. So, Coach, year 18.
Wow.
Are you keeping track?
Nope. I rely on people like you to keep track of that for
I had
me.
to Google it twice
Yep.
to make sure. I'm like, are you really serious? You can't trust
That's
that AI
scary
stuff
that it's
anymore,
on Google anyway. I don't want to be Googled.
Right. So, talk about this. What are some of the things that just so much different now than compared to when you took over?
Yeah. I don't know. It's still fun.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't fun.
Well, obviously.
And I think the difference is just the way in which you practice. And that's been so long ago now that it's just the way you practice. But when I first started, there was still a little bit of, every practice was like kind of like hammer each other as hard as you could every play. And it's just different how you practice. You went to the ground a lot now and in practice, and I don't know that most people I don't think do a whole lot of that anymore. And I think a lot of that has turned out to be good. And I often refer back to, I remember when Vince Young played at Texas, and Coach Gilbert, I can't say the coach's name of Texas right now.
Mac Brown.
Mac Brown.
Yeah.
I remember Mac saying that, Vince Young was such a live wire and a fun guy, and he just loved playing, and he had a lot of fun. And being around Mac Brown, being around Vince Young, helped him to enjoy the game a little bit more. And I think the way the game has changed has helped me to enjoy the game with the kids more and continue to do it to this point. And, I feel the same now in terms of loving the game and loving practice as I did, even back when I was an assistant.
Right. Now, as an assistant, you've spent some time with Coach Gilbert here.
Yeah, to you.
Coach, what do you remember about your time with Coach Phillips here?
Ed was before me.
Okay.
I think he goes with Coach Wilkowski.
I was with Coach Cole.
Okay,
and Coach
Nate.
Wilkowski came, and we just missed crossing paths there, I think.
Yeah.
So close enough.
Yeah. Nate mentioned that to me, and it made me. I couldn't remember if you were, because you were still around.
I was still
around.
Yeah.
And but you were always around everywhere back then too. But it's neat that I was kind of there. We had 4 great years there. We had Nate Washington a couple, and then we had we were 10-1, 9-2, and then we had a few down years. And then Coach Gilbert came back and kind of saw the resurgence. And there's still this town of Tiffin has a lot to be proud of. To the fact that they can support 2 college programs like they do, and the fact that Coach Gilbert and myself were part of it. Although I didn't get a conference championship ring like that. So Coach Cole, if you're out there watching,
Where's my ring?
I
Yeah.
think you owe me one.
Yeah, we got 2 under Coach Reiser. But, no, you're right with the idea of when I was recruiting for Tiffin University, I tried to hit the area hard around here because there's such good football. And no matter what school you went to, you're going to find somebody, because that's when I would see Ed, because the secretary was good, just, where coach's room is. They're never hesitant. They didn't have him call in the office. Just go down to his room. And Ed had a handle on, who I might be interested in. And he always had an area set up. I could, sit down and talk with the kids. So, and it's just that way around here. But there's such good football in this area. And the fan support, that's the big thing, is the support all the different schools get. It's just a great area.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, there's not really a bad place to watch a football game around here. Like, there's a lot of great atmospheres.
Yeah, there's a lot of neat venues.
Absolutely. Now, you probably changed quite a bit since you took over. What do you think is the area of coaching that you think you've grown the most?
I enjoy the kids, and I hope that I think that they're able to enjoy me a little bit more. I think you just get a little bit comfortable in the sense that I think when you start as a young coach, sometimes you feel like you've got to be, it's like you've got to be a certain way. And then once you've done it long enough, you get a little bit comfortable. You realize you're just a little bit more yourself with the kids, and you enjoy them. And I've always been a people-type person. I like being around people and big groups of people, and that's probably because I've always been around teams. Yeah. I don't know, that joy and that joy of the sport, that joy of being around the players and the coaches is why I still do it and what I enjoy the most about it, I guess.
Now, Coach, when you got later in your coaching years, what do you think was something that you had a hard
You're talking
time?
like I'm 100 years old
no,
here, man.
I'm talking with Coach Gilbert here.
Well, you're talking like he's 100 years old.
Now you're talking pretty close. I'm pushing it pretty hard.
What a jerk here, man.
I'm
Come
just
on
trying
now.
to figure out what was something that you had a hard time adjusting to as you got, towards the end of your coaching career.
Yeah, and the big thing was what made it tough at Columbia in the last couple of years is they weren't hiring teachers that coached. Yeah. And then so if you lose somebody, you knew that if they hired his teaching position, not bringing in a coach. So it was the idea of trying to go out and find somebody that could fit into your staff and be reliable. That was the big thing.
Yeah.
And that just took some time. And it got to the point where we went to a smaller staff because I knew those are the guys I can trust. So rather than bringing in somebody I didn't know very well, I wasn't sure how I was going to be with the kids. We just tightened up as a staff, and everybody just did a little bit more. But the constant factor was, like Coach talked about, I just enjoyed being around the players. Yeah. And the staff. And then when you get out of it, that's the thing you miss the most is just being around the players and being around the staff. And I don't miss two-a-days. I don't miss a lot of other stuff. But I do miss the relationships you had with the players.
Yeah.
That was so much fun. And being part of their life outside of football.
Yeah.
That was the thing where, I could see them as more than just a football player. And like Coach kind of talked about, they see you more than just a football coach. Yep. You're somebody in today's society. Sometimes these kids need somebody they can talk to. Exactly. And a lot of times it might not be a parent, but they're going to talk to their football coach about some pretty key issues. So you have to be there for them. And then that's the part I miss. And that was the adjustment. That became more and more of a thing that we were doing. It's kind of being a social worker. Yeah. Rather than, more than just a football coach.
For sure. And I think, a lot of those players, they're looking for that leadership. They're with you most of the time. This time of year, they're with you more than they were with their parents. So that's why they look to you for that guidance. Now, what are some keys, like this time of year, what are some of the key characteristics and traits that you're looking for in your team to gauge what kind of group you have right now?
They've got to be able to learn quick, from week to week. It changes. We went from playing Gibsonburg last week that, up front was a even front team to an odd front team. And that's a pretty big adjustment for a group of kids because it changes some schemes and some things you do. So the quicker they can learn things and process things and understand it from week to week, and then sometimes from within game to game because, sometimes you get teams that, you come out and they do things completely different from what you thought. And within a game, they've got to be able to process that and change and sometimes from one play to the next. So that's a big challenge. That's what makes football fun too, I think, though, and maybe different from other sports is, other sports. And sometimes I'll joke with my friends that coach like basketball or baseball because they play so many games. And like the joy I get out of it is you get that one shot a week and you prepare for it all week and you put a lot of study into it and such. And whereas sometimes they're just playing one game after the next. And I know that's fun and that's the nature of those sports. But like I like the practice time and the prep time and that's the kind of the challenge within it. And one of the things I think that separates, whatever level you're at, except if you're at this level, it separates you from getting that level. And the more intelligent you can be, the harder the kids study and the quicker they learn, the better chance you have to bump yourself up a notch from the level of talent you have. Because, at some point, I tell the guys all the time, you're going to run up against somebody that is of equal talent or better than you. It just happens. and at that point, it's going to come down to work ethic and your discipline and your intelligence of understanding what you have to do, and that's what will separate kind of the men from the boys at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you talked about that Gibsonburg win last week. That was a big win. Talk about playing in that environment, preparing for a team like that. Because I was talking with Coach a little bit off the air, and how do you prepare for a wing T offense like that?
Yeah, it's hard, and we've been. Coach Roofing said on Saturday when we started looking at Monroeville, he's like, I'm just happy to not be watching Gibsonburg because, and no offense to them, but when that game's come, and they're a quality program like they are. We started watching them back last winter.
Yeah.
And thinking about them and what we were going to do and such, and sometimes you can almost do it too much. Yeah. And so it was big for us to go out and get a win against an extremely talented team. You won't find we may go up against some backfields that are as good as Walby and Smith, but man, those two are pretty talented individuals, and not just them. And they got some big physical linemen. So that was a quality program, a quality win for us to go out and we played a lot of guys. One thing that we've talked about this year is we've got a lot of faith in a lot of our kids, and we wanted to play a lot of people. And we went out and last Friday we played a lot of people. We put a lot of people on that field. At one point we were just about two platooning our guys up front, and I told the guys all week. I said that they're a really good football team, but we're going to wear them down, and we did that. We wore them down with our depth and kind of our we've talked about being other centered and celebrating each other, and I think that game was really a chance to do that. And on top of that, we started out pretty poor. We made a lot of first game mistakes, but it's a good character test for you because we turned the ball over a little bit and just did some stuff that we've got to clean up. But when you come out on the other side of that on a win, you can grow from it either way. But it's certainly good to win and come out of it and grow after that. So just a lot of good stuff, and a lot of good things came from that win against Gibsonburg.
So, question. Every time we go over to Gibsonburg, I notice one thing. How long was the grass?
It was longer than ours. I had
grass long over there, man.
PTSD because the last time we went there was the muddiest, sloppiest field I've ever been.
I forgot about that game.
And that was it ended up being 7-0, and they beat us. And I remember, and they called us early in the week. They're like, "Hey, this field's really wet. Bring stuff and da 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 da." And we got there, and it was, and there's no doubt it was the worst field. When we pulled up and I got off the bus, I was almost shaking because I remembered that game. and when I saw the field, it was like flashbacks. And then for the kicker, that night when we left that game, between 10 and 11 o'clock, the sprinklers came on.
As if they needed that cherry on top.
I said, "You got to be kidding me." Because Coach Gilbert, the first thing goes through your head, yeah, you got a lot of rain this week, but you've been watering that field too, because we were fast back then, and on that night we weren't very fast.
Now, what was something, Coach Gilbert, that you did to get your team ready to go into a tough road environment like that?
For a long time, I think we did too much. We get them too hyped, and there at the end, especially when we played Bellevue, we just took it as a normal game. It's just another game, just happens to be Bellevue. So I wanted them to stay relaxed. But we usually had a theme that would hammer home for each team. And, for like Bellevue, the game, it was always a big game, but our kids respected them, and they knew it was going to be a heck of a game. We played a team the other way on 224, and our kids just did not like them. I mean, it was flat out. I didn't have to say too much. They knew they were on the schedule when they were on it, and they were just ready to go. But it was one of those things where our big theme was always they're in our way of where we want to get to, so they just have to be removed. And they took it as a personal challenge that we have to remove them. So whatever it takes, we got to get them out of our way because they're blocking us from where we want to get to at the end of the season. So we kind of attacked each week with a set purpose of, we're going to war, and this is can they, like Coach talked about, he wore Gibsonburg down. And that was our idea. He says, we're going 48 minutes no matter what, and if we have to go more, we'll go more, but they're not going to be able to hang. We're going to pound them in the fourth quarter. The game's going to be ours. But it was just a mental thing that we're here to stay, and we're going to wear on you.
Yeah, that's a great point. Now, you guys found yourself down 14 on the road early in the game. You got a pretty young team this year. Mm-hmm. How do you prepare your teams mentally for those kind of situations?
I think it goes along with what Coach Gilbert said a little bit. And maybe that's a different, and having Coach along now too is I remember watching him score that first touchdown, and it was a lot easier than it should have been. Like, all right, I know, Coach, our defense coaches, Coach Roofing, defense staff will get things, they'll settle down. And we talked, we made adjustments, we were patient, we were calm, and then we came back, and we came back, made it 14-7, then we tied it, and then they went up again. But it kind of just patience and belief in your kid. I believed in our kids, and I knew that if we stayed the course, we would be okay. And that was, that's a great learning experience for them, because we play a lot of young guys, but then we've got a really good. Some really good upperclassmen too, and it's just a nice mix. But I think from that, they went through that intense situation, but saw that we're gonna do this just like we do in practice. We're gonna be calm. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna fix things, and we're gonna come out on the other side. So they're roadblocking our way. We've made some roadblocks ourselves. We got to fix that, and we did. And came out with a W. But I think being calm in those intense moments, and I talked to it's funny that Coach said that, because I talked to our guys about that before the game. I said, I know you're juiced up. I said, do me a favor, take a deep breath. And we got on that field, and you get wound up, take a deep breath. Just think about what you got to do, where you got to line up, and what your job is, and just do it. Because the ability to focus in those situations is so important. And if you're too wired, you're not gonna. And I think our guys, stayed calm in the moment, and just thought about what they had to do, even after we had messed some stuff up. And it resulted in the comeback win.
I like that. Now, Coach Gilbert, when you found yourself down by 2 scores early, what was your plan? You just stick to the game plan, or you just emphasize an execution at that point?
Well, luckily it didn't happen very often. But it's one of those things.
There you go.
But Coach made a great point. If you stay calm and just stay with your plan, you're fine. If the kids see you getting rattled, they're going to rattle. But if you keep your poise and demeanor just on a straight line, they're going to follow your lead. And I know my oldest boy coaches basketball. And my wife's always telling him that, hey, they're going to follow your lead. And, he's had a young team the last couple of years. So on the outward, he looks calm and steady. But I'm sure inside he's getting tore up. But it's a matter of, like, Coach made a great point. You just got to stay the course, because our plan's good, and we're going to make a play. And then the next thing, like he says, 14-7. Okay, now it's tied. Okay, they go up again. Hey, we tied them once, we'll tie them again. Yep. But, it's just a matter, like we played Central a couple years ago in the playoff, and they got up 10 on us at halftime. But we were okay, because we were playing good football. They had a phenomenal kid named Ryan Robinson, who ended up playing at Miami of Ohio and played a little bit with Carolina Panthers. The kid was unbelievable. But we stayed the course and ended up coming back, took the lead at the end, and then they came back and won on a 2-point conversion. But it's just the idea that if you stay calm and believe in what you're doing, and the kids follow your lead, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
the key to it, staying calm. It's easier said than done, but you guys seem to have it figured out pretty well.
Well, really, you look at your staff, your defensive coaches naturally are going to be the more aggressive coaches, I think. That's just mentality of defense. You want that aggressive line coach, especially a linebacker coach. They're always chomping at the bit. Secondary coach may be a little calmer, because those guys get beat once, they got to forget about that and get ready to play. Now, on the offensive staff, your offensive line coach has got to be your most vocal guy.
Yeah.
You know, because the other guys deal with a different type of athlete at a receiver and in the backfield, and especially your quarterback coach. You got to keep him because, let's say during the game he throws an interception. Well, if he comes on the sidelines, you start ripping on him. The next thing you know, defense got a turnover. He got to go. Okay, then you got to go back out to it. You can't belittle the kid. You got to keep him relaxed because just go make a play now. So it's just a matter of you don't know what it's like to be on the sidelines unless you've been on the sidelines. You know, the same way as guys up in the box. You would not believe the conversations that go on over the headsets that nobody else can hear. But thank God nobody else can hear them.
Yes.
But it's just a matter of.
It would be fun to write a book about that stuff, wouldn't it?
It's just how the game is played. You know, there's the mental part is so much more than people realize. Yeah. You know, it really shrinks down the physical part. You know. But the mental part's the key. So you keep them even-keeled and believing in themselves, they're going to be fine.
Coach, before I take a break here, I want to talk to you about Division 6 because, I mean, this looks like one of the toughest divisions in all of football this year. 3 state champions in this division. When you get ready for this season, do you even think about things like that?
I mean, I know what's there, and to be the best, you got to beat the best.
That's right.
You know, and that is what it is. But that's a long ways down the line. And you know, right now, as Coach Gilbert put it, there's a roadblock in our way down 547, and we've got to take care of that. You know, they're going to come down 547 Route 4, and that's the thing standing in our way. And at the end of the week, you know, if we can get through that roadblock, we'll be higher up in Division 6 than we are now. You know, I told the guys yesterday as we're leaving, you got to be humble and you got to be hungry because half the teams, and you know, you're no different than half the teams in the state right now, and we're 1-0, and you know, our goal is to be 2-0, but if we're not hungry, that ain't gonna happen because I know there's a team over Monroeville that's hungry and grumpy right now.
Yeah, they're pretty grumpy. I would bet that Tyler Nestor and that coaching staff's got them guys pretty hungry over there. Now, you got the Northern 10 Conference expansion. You got 14 teams now. You guys find yourself in that Eastern Division. What were your thoughts when that expansion was first announced, Coach?
It's different. It just is different getting the stats the other day and looking at it, and you just look, there's a lot of good football players in this league. It's exciting. I think there are a lot of when I first saw it, I thought this is maybe not a good thing because you see conferences changing and folding and stuff, and it worries you that if you change, that's going to lead to folding. And I do think that after I've seen it now and I see how high school football is evolving and stuff, I think it's probably a good thing to have some more football teams in your conference than to have less.
Yeah.
Now I think you don't want to get, I don't think you want to get much bigger. Because the SBC kind of saw that and it didn't work for them. But I know this: we've got a great group of football teams and great group of players and coaches, and iron sharpens iron.
That's right.
And so we've started out with our non-league, and then when we get in the league, it's not going to be any easier. But that's going to prepare you for what you run into. What you hopefully are able to run to when you get to week 11 and beyond.
Absolutely. All right, well, we're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. When we come back, we'll have this. We're going to talk about this matchup, Seneca East and Monroeville, here on Heart of Ohio Sports this Friday. We'll break it down after this. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Coach's Corner live here on Heart of Ohio Sports, brought to you by Xcaret Mexican Restaurant, Your Legacy Federal Credit Union, and Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery. We'll be right back. Stop down to Benchwarmers in Tiffin or call it in for delivery. Fresh cut fries, locally sourced ingredients, and phenomenal service. Give the Tiffin store a call at 567-268-9268 and place your delivery order now. Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery. More than just a game. This is Heart of Ohio Sports. Every game-changing play. All the breathtaking catches.
every punishing run, and the bone-jarring hits. Friday Night Lights are on Heart of Ohio Sports.
Let's go! Boom! This is my house! Let's go! Hey, let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
The best rivalries make you better. Heart of Ohio Sports. Hey, let's go! Let's go!
My stomach is messed up.
The game's almost over. Can't you wait?
No, I gotta go right now.
Wow, really?
Swung on, hit to center, well hit. Back, and this one's gone. A home run for Connor Moyer on an 0-2
Needed
pitch.
that.
Smokes it to dead center. That's
Oh
probably at least
man, are you
360.
kidding me?
It happens. Never miss a moment. Heart of Ohio Sports. Welcome back here on Heart of Ohio Sports. We are live from Tornado Field. Defensive substitution coming in for the Tornadoes.
Hey, you're in.
Seems a little distracted down there.
Let's go, you're in. Oh, you gotta get out.
Runner at second base, nobody out. Here's the first pitch to Bremeyer. And that one's a wild pitch. Runner's off from second base, and catcher's still not paying attention.
Going for.
He's around third.
Hey.
Headed home. Boom! Big collision at the plate. And wait a second. What's going on here? What's the call?
Hey man, hands off my who's.
Whatever, kid.
When the game's on who's, can't take your eye off of it.
Welcome to your Legacy Federal Credit Union, your trusted community credit union for over 70 years. We're not just a credit union, we're your personal financial counselor. Your Legacy Federal Credit Union is a full-service financial institution tailoring solutions to your needs. Whether it's your first home or planning for the future, we're here to help you find success. Your Legacy Federal Credit Union, a legacy built on trust, commitment, and community.
Your legacy, your legacy.
Put your game face on. Heart of Ohio Sports. You're locked into the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Heart of Ohio Sports.
And welcome back here to the Coach's Corner live on Heart of Ohio Sports. We are here at Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery. The Coach's Corner brought to you by Xcaret Mexican Restaurant, your Legacy Federal Credit Union, as well as our friends here at Benchwarmers. There's still plenty of time. Call in an order, pick up, delivery, or come in and dine in. Check out the great food here at Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery. All right, Coach, we've switched seats here because we're going to do a little segment. But before we get to that, I got a couple questions here about just this matchup and your group that you've got going on the field this year. Now, you got a solid group of seniors this year, Coach.
Yeah, we got a really good group. Yep.
Talk about that group. What makes them so unique?
I don't know, they're tough kids, very intelligent. They work really hard for me. Their personalities, for the most part, are quiet, but they do things right. And I think they're really good at working with the young guys and helping to bring them along. I guess in a lot of ways, like you as a parent do things. Sometimes you don't say a lot to your kids, but you just do the right thing and you hope that they notice it and pay attention. And I think when I think of this group of seniors, it's very much the way they are. They're just good hard workers that work really hard, do the right thing. they're very intelligent. You know, we've got four linemen back this year that are seniors that played a lot last year. And that shows up in the ability to adjust and play well up front. And that really helps move things along in practice.
Yeah.
You know, when your offensive line is playing good. And they've helped. You can see that when the young guys mix in with them because, you know, we've got young guys that mix in with them, be it in practice or in a game. And it kind of helps them fit in seamlessly because the older guys understand their importance and they're really good teammates to them. And it creates that brotherhood and that just good, you know, I guess good teamwork, good team atmosphere to be around.
I like that. Now you got a young quarterback taking over, Branson Robinson. Talk about the differences in his style of play compared to Duck Parks, who's, I mean, he's been leading this Tiger squad the last 2 years. What's the differences between these two?
Both very good quarterbacks. Duck was physical, and you know he'd just soon run through you as run around you. And Branson, you know, he's got the ability to be a guy that you put in the pocket and let him sling the ball around. But he's also very athletic and can run the football and move in the pocket. You know, he by no means is a guy that can't run with the football or, you know, get to the edge. And in week one, he did a really good job of, you know, because one thing that worries you, and he even mentioned it, he mentioned it today. One thing that worries you when you do 7-on-7 stuff, you know, there's no D line coming out. There's no, you know, collapsing the pocket and then give you a false sense of security in terms of how much time you're going to have. And I told him going into Gibsonburg week, because Gibsonburg's got some really good defensive linemen. And I said that pocket is going to collapse. It's not going to be there for 4 seconds. Yeah. I said you're going to move a little bit and make some plays and be aware of that and protect the football while you do it. And you know, he did a really good job of that.
Now, Jackson Gayhart might be one of my favorite football players to watch, man. He's got a nose for the football on defense, and his running style, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Jerome Bettis. Like, he just does not go down on first contact. Now, talk about this kid and just what kind of presence he brings to the locker room.
He's just physical, and he's what I just described. He's a really intelligent football player and works really hard to understand what you want. You know, when he gets on the football field on Monday, he knows what we're doing because he studied the stuff. He knows stuff. You can tell he's watched the film. You know, he diagnoses the play so quickly when he's on the field. And that's what you're talking about defensively. And, you know, last year, the goal line stand that we had at the end of the Monroeville game is as good a stand as you'll ever see, and he made several plays in that stand that were, you know, will always be fun to go back and watch.
And you can watch that right here on Ohio Sports.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. But I think that's a good example, and I talk to the kids about not just with him but with others, is that, you know, when you do a good job with your film and watching some film and understand the other team, and then listening to the coaches and what they have to say throughout the week, it goes a long way to being successful on the football field on Friday. And I never thought of Jerome Bettis, but last week finishing off the game against Gibsonburg, he looked a lot like Jerome Bettis.
It's just when I watch him run, I'm like, man, that's kind of that's the style he runs with.
Yeah, he brings the hammer, no doubt.
So now we're going to switch gears here, folks. I want to switch, and I'm going to turn the floor over to coaches here. This is going to be called Coach to Coach with Coach Gilbert, and he's going to take over and talk to Coach about this matchup this week.
Okay, when you study film preparing for a game, what are some of the things you look for in an opponent?
Yeah, I mean, first thing I look for in them, when I look at them defensively, the first thing I want to find out for myself and for the guys is how are they going to line up. You know, what kind of shell are they going to line up with their DBs? You know, how many linebackers are we going to have in the box? How can we get linebackers out of the box? Just kind of their structure. And then, you know, one thing that I don't get to each week as quick as I want to is just watching the individual players. I like to find out, how good are they up front? Who's their guys that we can attack, and then at each level. And then offensively, same thing. Offensively, we want to look at their structure and find out, what's their structure? How do we got to line up? Is this something that what they do? Is it something that hurts the way we want to play? And then look at their players and the schemes that they use to see find out how are they going to attack us.
Now, how do you spend your weekends preparing? Like what we used to do is this is back in the days we used to trade film. So we were in the old NOL, playing those games. We always had a meeting place about halfway between the schools. So I'd drive there, meet those guys at 8 o'clock, bring back the
after you made a copy of the film.
Oh yeah, the VHS tapes, and then bring them back to the office. The defensive staff was in it before 8, and they would do they had a defensive chart, so they were charting tackles and interceptions and all that stuff. And I'd be back at 8:30, depending on where I went. But the team would meet at 9, and then we'd go over film, and then go lift and do some jogging, just to get the soreness out a little bit. And if we had a JV game, we watched that. And then we didn't meet again as a staff till like 4 o'clock on Sunday. I'd come in early on Sunday and did special teams. So how does your weekend look?
We, now that you have huddle assist, or huddle in general, and then the huddle assist, it helps you a little bit with the breakdowns. We get the film, and then my assistants stay home, most of them, unless if they're going to coach the JV game. And then some of them start breaking down that film right away in the morning.
Okay.
Well, I bring the kids in. I bring the kids at 9 o'clock, and we watch the film together. And then we do a workout. We watch film for probably a little over an hour, and then we work out for around an hour. One thing that I think keeps me going with kids is like I'll jump in the workouts and I'll do the workout as much as I can with them. And that's another thing that like helps me to enjoy this.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I hope I hope it makes them look at me and think, that's hopefully they think that's all right that Coach still does that.
Oh yeah.
And then we after that we'll get together with coaches and we start game planning. Basically, as soon as if it's a home JV game, some of us we start game planning as soon as that JV game is done.
Okay.
We do most of it on Saturday, and then it's funny you say that because I just this weekend I came up with a list of things to make sure that we have done by the time we're on the practice field on Monday, and we do that. But I've got some young guys kind of joining the coaching staff this year. To go back to what you said, because it's hard to get coaches in this day and age, and we've made a concerted effort in recent years to try to get some young guys, and I've got a couple guys that I used to coach that have joined the staff, which is a lot of fun. In an effort to get younger, to bring their energy for the players, but then also for me, they help me too. So then we game plan on Saturday, and we come up with, our old line coach and myself will go through our blocking schemes and stuff, the way we think we're going to want it to go. And I'll get with our defense coordinator, Coach Ruffing, and we'll come up with a pretty good chunk of the plan in terms of what we think we want to do. And then we've all got our things that we know we need to get done between Sunday, and Monday. And Sunday is just, when I first started, we did a lot of our stuff on Sunday. But then I thought, I believe Sunday's for your family. I believe Sunday's for, going to church and being with family and eating dinner together and doing some stuff. And I hammer that with my coaches, and my coaches know that if they come to me and they say, my kid's got something, I'm gonna say, go see what your kid's got, because your kid's a senior and my kid all of a sudden is in 5th grade, and I don't want them to miss stuff. And I hope they appreciate that. I know they do, because I've got a lot of guys that have coached with me for a long time, and I know that they could have gone elsewhere and gotten jobs and done this and that, but they're still here because they love the kids and they love the program, and it's an important part of their life. But I know that the other stuff at home is an important part of your life that needs to be taken care of, and that's what to me what Sundays are for. That's how we do it. And I know a lot of people do it other ways. When I was at Bellevue with Coach Nasani, we did it on Sundays, and it was like I loved it. I mean, I was still single then.
Oh, you mean Ned's basement?
Yeah, yeah.
There ain't nothing like that place.
There ain't nothing like that. You been there?
Oh yeah, it's like when I was recruiting, I texted Ed and I said, "Hey, I'm going to be in Bellevue. A couple kids I want to talk to." He goes, "Hey, why don't you just meet at my house?" So I had an idea where it was at, and I was going down the street, and I see this big feather carved into a rock, and then I see this big red Hummer. I said, I think that's Ed's house.
Yeah, that's it.
And then so I pulled it and knock at the door, and Ed comes out, and he goes, "Hey, well, let me take you downstairs." And he went,
tell you what.
It's a shrine to Bellevue. It was awesome. He had a table. This is where we meet on Sunday. I said, I can see why. But it was as good as any staff room I've ever seen, even in college.
That's awesome.
It's a mecca of Bellevue football. And
Yeah.
if you – he and I can say that, but you won't understand it till you've been there. And what's really cool is my dad played for Bellevue, and he has some stuff down there. And my dad's in some of the things, so it's really it's really cool. It was kind of emotional for me to go see it, and then Ed being the guy he is, he's given me some pictures of Dad, and now that he's retired, he does this AI stuff, and he makes the things look really cool. I mean, it just what a place, what a good guy.
That's so cool.
It's unbelievable. But getting back to the other side, how do you? Is your staff split offense and defense, or guys coach two positions?
Yeah, they coach. We're pretty good now in the sense that, like, I've got a young guy that coaches DBs, and I've got a young guy that works with receivers. And then, but, they're not teachers, so then I kind of fill those gaps in that amongst those two groups when they're not there. And then our O-line, I've got two O-line and D-line coaches that do a really good job there. And they kind of do both. Now my defense coordinator, he coaches Coach Roving, he coaches the running backs, but does very little on offense. I kind of let him do his thing on defense, and he watches the heck out of film and does a great job. And Coach Dick on offense. It's kind of the same thing. He doesn't do much with defense. He helps out a little bit, filling some gaps here and there, but he's able to focus for the most part on offense. And then a couple of years ago, we got a special teams coordinator. Now Coach Cornwell is our special teams coordinator, and that really helped because for a long time, I tried to know what was going on in offense, I tried to know what was going on in defense, and do special teams, and I just couldn't do it justice. And 2 or 3 years ago, I turned the special teams over to Coach Dick and now Coach Cornwell, and I can't tell you how much that helps me out.
See, that's when I would come in early Sunday, and most of my focus was on the special teams. But I kind of liked it because I was by myself, and I wanted to see how fast they ran down on kickoff. What was their coverage like? Is there anybody who's like just blazing down the field that we got to make sure we account for right away, or are they all coming down together, things like that? But that's interesting because you think about we used to platoon the staff, and then so when we met on Sunday, we had a general staff meeting. Then we'd split offensive staff here and defensive staff there, and then. But that's just how we did it, And I would call the offense, and I was lucky where I always had a great defensive coordinator. First it was Jeff, and then we had Chad. And really the only thing with Chad, I go, what do we got to stop? What's their go-to stuff? And Chad always had a great plan. And then I took care of the offense, and it worked out good. Now when you look at Monroeville, where do you got to stop?
You got to stop their run game. They're a typical Monroeville football team in the sense that they've got some dogs up front in their offensive line, and their defensive line. I think that's the heart of their team, and is their run game on offense, and their offensive line up front, and they've got some speed to go with that. And then on defense, you can see their defensive line's a handful, and they've got some really good inside and outside linebackers. And I think when you think of Monroeville football, no matter what year it is, I think that's what you think of, and I think that's what Coach Nestor wants you to think of. Just like Coach Ringholtz, he wanted you to think about that, and and that's the challenge, just like it was last week. Because I knew that Gibsonburg, and the longer the week wore on last week, I thought, man, their offensive line's really good. And it ended up being really good. And when I look at Monroeville, their offensive line is really good, and we've got to be, tough and ready for it up front.
It was anything. The game we saw last week, Fremont Tiffin, it was a line of scrimmage game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, both lines played really well. They just beat on each other the whole game. But I remember years ago when I was at Crestview, we played Monroeville when Steve Ringholtz was the head coach. And I guess at one time he was a 2 or 3 back guy and just pounded. Then he went to the old run and shoot.
Yeah.
And
and you still see flashes of that in some of the things
and
they do.
it wasn't that. It was way before all the spread stuff, and that was Tiger Elsden's run and shoot with the gangster motion and all that stuff. But then they were always in that straight 50, 50 defense.
Yep.
Today it's 3-4, but it's a 50.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean they just sat in there and just played it as well as you could possibly play it. They were just always a really solid, well-coached team. But as you go through the week, how's your week broken in? Like, do you have like an offensive day? Or like
No, we do both every day.
Okay.
Yeah, we do a little bit of both every day. Yeah. Yeah, and we put a lot of work. Tuesdays and Wednesdays we put a lot of work in. Mondays is I call it a run through because it's not a walk. We're not out like walking around, but it's a run through, and then Thursday's more of a walk through for us.
See, we was at TU. Chris went to what we call a focus session. It would be a high tempo walkthrough.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you say walkthrough, they think they're walking.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You can't do that. So we really put the focus. We go through all the plays, and we used to have a no sweat Thursday, where we'd have like a 45-minute workout with the offense, and we went through the whole game plan. Defense would watch film, and then we'd flip.
Okay.
And then Friday we picked things. The speed of practice was more to a regular practice. Thursday was just shells, and we're more of a high tempo Friday to get the juices going again. Then played on Saturday, but when you look at as your season progresses, what's the new schedule like? Is it league games last?
Yeah, this is our last non-league game, and then we've got eight weeks of league. Yeah.
I was going to ask you about that because that's crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know that there's a whole lot of difference what you get once you get going. That third non-league game let you have another team of your choosing. But, man, I'm not going to lie. Like, one of the biggest pains as a coach is getting non-league games sometimes.
Yeah.
And worrying about it, so that part of it, not having to worry about that third non-league game is good. And our league's so good that, if you're worried about getting points, just win some games and you're going to get points because your teams in the league are going to win games.
Well, that's the problem with having the success that you've had. People don't want to play you.
Yeah, it gets difficult.
And then you end up either you got to travel or you're playing somebody, Archbishop so-and-so or Saint so-and-so, and now you –
or they'll play you for a year or two, then they don't want to play you.
And the bad thing, too, is that they're not going to bring anybody.
Right.
So you're looking for a draw. Somebody's going to, and your crowd deserves to watch a good game.
That's the biggest disappointment, not to jump in, but like one of the biggest disappointments of the league to me is I think one of the great rivalries in this area is Mohawk Seneca East, and we're not going to play each other for 2 years.
Tell me about it, Coach. That's my favorite rivalry in the area.
That's a great rivalry, and but that is what it is.
I heard that's the same thing that's going to happen to Columbia and Bellevue.
Yeah, can you imagine?
They're not going to play for a while.
That's crazy.
And then I was talking to Ed last year. He was at one of the games, and he said, I was at Columbia in 17 years, and 15 of those 17, one of us won the league.
Yep.
But Bellevue considers Clyde their biggest rival, and we kind of picked Bellevue just because the game was always so important. And then Fremont was huge because of just the closeness.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Fostoria was always a big game.
The proximity of
Yeah.
the good football teams that you guys.
It was just it worked out. But as you had a list of questions. I'm trying to think of.
Oh no, you're good. I was actually just going to try to wrap this up because I mean we're getting close to about 8 o'clock here. And I don't want to take too much of your time here, Coach, but I did want to ask you kind of what the keys to the game are. If you're going to come away with a victory on Friday night, what do you think are the keys?
Yeah, that's really easy. You got to take care of the line of scrimmage. You got to take care of the football. You do those two things. The team does those two things. There's the W.
There you
right
go.
There.
Easy peasy.
Yep.
Now
that's simple.
What's the message to Tiger Nation?
Hey, just come out. It's going to be a great night. We're going to kind of christen that new field, and you know, what better way to do it than against Monroeville? You know, when I think of Monroeville every year when we play them, you know, I think of being a kid in 5th or 6th grade and going and watching, you know, the likes of Ed Daniel and Rod Bowerman and you know, just the Brandon Thompson and guys like that I looked up to. And now these kids that I'm coaching right now have that opportunity to go out there and be the guys that those 5th and 6th graders are looking up to. And it's always a special night. You know, the fact that we just started school this week and the students are going to be together and fire up that student section. And we're coming into it 1-0 is an extremely exciting thing with, you know, then with ideas, you know, starting, you know, in a, you know, essentially a new league next week. And, you know, what's old is new again.
Yep.
You know,
reigniting some old rivalries.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of exciting, you know, when you know, what could be better for a high school kid in Attica, Ohio right now than to know, hey, we're playing Monroeville in Attica on a new field this year. And then we get to start this new league, and we get to play Calvert again.
Just on a side note, and this is way back. My first job, 1973, first high school job, I'm at North Baltimore.
Okay.
And I was coaching JV football and varsity, and then we were in a new league. It was Seneca East, Hopewell Loudon, Danbury Lakeside, and North Baltimore.
Yeah.
And my first game as a high school coach was a JV game at Seneca East, and they did not have a field. We played at, I think,
at the fairgrounds.
Fairgrounds,
yeah.
You know. And they didn't have a field, so they played 10 away games.
That was their first year as a program.
Yeah, correct.
73, I think. Yeah.
Fritz.
Stressenruder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had 2 kids, Daniel brothers, that were unbelievable players. But that was just, I think it later developed into the MAL.
Yeah.
And I remember we went to Hopewell. They didn't have seats on the visiting side, so our coaches, they pulled the school bus on behind the team bench, and the guys stood on top of the school bus. And the bad thing about it, we had the headsets on, and they weren't working, so we just started yelling down, you know, because didn't need headsets. But, you know, I think of Seneca East because, that, you know, that was like my first game as a high school coach was at the fairgrounds in Seneca East.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That is cool.
All right. Well, Coach, any final thoughts here before we wrap this one up?
No, I appreciate you having me over. It's exciting, you know, and you spend so much energy this time of year, and you know, this was fun. This was fun to come over and talk to you too.
It's been a blast, and I tell you what, I really appreciate you spending some time with us this week. Thank you. We'll be there on Friday. I'll be hopefully they'll have my ribeye ready for me.
I'm sure they will. Yeah.
But that's going to do it for us here tonight, Coach. I want to thank Coach Gilbert for coming on with us once again. Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Coach Phillips.
Yep, you're welcome.
Once again, this has been the Coach's Corner live here at Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery. If you made it this far, do us a favor, folks. Share the video. Like, follow, subscribe. That all helps, too. But sharing the video helps us reach new audiences. For Greg Kinn, I'm Nate Mullins signing off. Once again, you've been watching the Coach's Corner right here on Heart of Ohio Sports.